Lekgotla. Patricia, good afternoon, Patricia. Can you give us a breakdown of what was said?
Good afternoon, Mahindra.
Thank you. Can we have a breakdown of what was said at the media briefing?
Well, certainly there we heard the ANC leaders and the ANC's communication team really responding to some of the allegations that are currently making headlines, and of course that coming from the testimonies that we have been hearing this past week from, of course, the person that is the latest person testifying in the State Capture Commission, and that's Angela Greasy, linking several ANC people to allegations of bribery and accepting, of course, certain lump sums of cash there. So, of course, that media briefing that we've just heard, where they briefly just responded to some of those allegations that you've just heard that we've played. But I think the focus is really the NEC meeting that has been sitting since Friday. That was Friday and yesterday. Of course, we have some of the top brass of the ANC meeting here at St. George's in Irene, discussing some of the priority points for the past 2 days, and today officially the ANC Lekgotla starting, and that of course in partnership with the alliance partners. That will continue until tomorrow. Now, Mahindra, of course, we know that this comes as the party the past weekend, that was last weekend in Durban, held its January 8th statement that they addressed there in Durban, and of course the party's election manifesto, where they've outlined their program of action, where they've outlined some of the promises that they will be making sure that they deliver to the people of South Africa. We heard, of course, the president of the ANC, who's also the president of South Africa, that is Cyril Ramaphosa, highlighting that the biggest priority right now is, of course, to tackle the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, inequality, and of course job creation being top of the agenda, and just making sure that the party will come up with strong measures to boost the economy. So today, as the Lekgotla officially starts here at Irene, that will be what the ANC members will be putting top of the agenda, discussing some of those priority points that were echoed in Durban, putting them on the table and coming up with decisive strategies on how exactly will the party implement some of those promises that were made during the January 8th statement, and of course that were outlined in the party's election manifesto in Durban. Now, Mahindra, of course, this is a very important period that the party finds itself in. It is officially the period where we're building up to the country's national elections, which will be taking place in a few months in May, if we keep to that date that has already been announced. So, of course, a lot of groundwork taking place where the party needs to, of course, pull up its socks and really gain back that confidence and integrity and credibility from the people, hoping to maintain its position as, of course, the governing party in the country. So a lot of agendas that they will be focusing on. They will, of course, divide themselves into subcommittees where they will be dealing with these individual priority points that have been tabled. As I said, boosting the economy, job creation, and really tackling unemployment and inequality. That remains the party's biggest focus. Of course, not neglecting some of the other issues that are also very much top of the agenda. Some of the other burning issues in the country that South Africans are complaining about. So, but that will be the focus. Earlier, you saw those visuals of course, ANC members. It is business as usual here as they gather here in their numbers. It is obviously their first big meeting since that gathering in Durban, where they were building up the mood ahead of the elections and really coming up with strategies to, of course, put South Africans first. Whether that will be the reality, Mahindra, of course, we as the media will continue to monitor how the party is performing and whether they are keeping to their promises. And The other important point is also how will the party deal with some of the damning allegations that are deriving from the State Capture Commission that links some of their senior leaders to allegations of corruption and bribery. As they enter into this period where they have to deal with South Africans, how will they respond to South Africans in terms of the questions that are coming out and the allegations? Are these allegations true? Can South Africans still trust the ANC leaders who are implicated in these allegations? So closely we will monitor how exactly the party plans to deal in particular with the allegations that are coming out of the State Capture Commission as we are heading to elections. Mahindra?
Now, Patricia, there's a lot of activity happening in the capital right now with the ANC door-to-door campaign. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, certainly a lot of other activities that are outside of the conference here at St. George's. Since yesterday morning, we've been having the ANC's provincial election registration drive that is taking place in the capital city, where various regional and provincial leaders have, gone into different areas where they're campaigning and, of course, where they're motivating South Africans to make sure that they register to vote for the upcoming elections. So today they continue with that voter registration drive in the capital city. Of course, we've got the likes of the Gauteng MEC for Education, Panyaza Lesufi, and of course the ANC's regional chairperson, Dr. Jose Maepa, all of them in various areas such as Atteridgeville, Soshanguve, and of course the inner cities such as Sunnyside, Arcadia, where they are encouraging South Africans to register to vote. And one of the things that really came out strongly yesterday was the amount of people in the capital city who actually said that they don't have IDs. So that was really top of the agenda yesterday, trying to, of course, encourage those South Africans to make sure that they do get their IDs before the voter registration weekend arrives, so that they can have the rightful documentation to make sure that they are registered to vote, regardless of which party they'll be voting for. The importance is for them to be ready to make sure that they, of course, practice their constitutional right to choose whoever they want them as their leader. So that continues in various parts in the capital city, a lot of activity. And of course, the other focus remains the attention on the number one spot in the capital city, and that is the mayoral position. You would know that the past week, of course, DA Mayor Solim Simanga, who announced that he will be vacating his post as Mayor of Tshwane, he'll be resigning next month. So that also tops the agenda for the party to see who will be, of course, taking up that position and what other plans of actions can they put in place. We know that, of course, they have outlined a whole plan on how they will be dealing with the city, the capital city, in terms of that particular position ahead of Solim Simanga announcing that he will be resigning come next month. So there you have it, a lot of activity, attention here in the capital city from the ANC top six and, of course, the NEC members that have been gathering here, from cabinet ministers and so forth. From here, just to wrap up, Mahindra, of course, this NEC meeting and the Lekgotla will be followed by the first cabinet Lekgotla that will be taking place in coming weeks, just before the State of the Nation address that will be taking place in early February. So there's another big meeting that will be taking place perhaps in the next week or so, and that is the cabinet Lekgotla that will be sitting just after the ANC Lekgotla. So from the ANC, of course, being the governing party, whatever decisions that are taken here, those will be elevated to government level, and that will be followed by the, of course, cabinet Lekgotla that will be taking place. And of course, tomorrow they'll have a media briefing where they will outline the decisions that were taken here at the NEC meeting and the Lekgotla. And of course, they'll also announce when exactly the cabinet Lekgotla will be taking place. Mahindra?
Patricia, thank you. Very, very briefly, how is the voter registration going?
Well, Mahindra, of course, right now it's just the drive to encourage people to gear up for the voter registration. It is not yet the voter registration this weekend. So various political parties are campaigning. They're going into, different areas, especially where they've got strong constituencies. And this to, of course, create awareness about the voter registration drive that will be taking place, where the IEC will, of course, in the different wards, will be setting up voter registration stations where South Africans who did not yet register to vote can then be given a last chance to make sure that they register to vote in their respective areas. And of course, those who can also be allowed to just update their credentials, in particular their residential addresses and so forth. And that is still coming. And but for now, the focus is to, of course, encourage South Africans to go out in their numbers, those who still have not registered, to make sure that they too go to the IEC stations and they make sure that, number one, they update their details, and those who have not registered yet, make sure that they do register. So it's various political parties. Of course, this weekend, as I said, the attention here in the capital city, with the ANC really crisscrossing the capital city, where they are really going to great length to create that awareness of the importance to register to vote for the upcoming elections. Now, Mahindra, just to throw in a point, we saw, for instance, during the municipal elections in 2016, where a lot of South Africans, for instance, did not go and vote. And one of the reasons that some of them gave was that they didn't register. Some of them, of course, are saying that they didn't register because they didn't have IDs. So again, as I said yesterday, that was the information that was coming out. I think, if I remember correctly, we picked up that over 90,000 residents here in the capital city were saying that they don't have IDs. Most of them, of course, young people who have just turned 18, who still have not either received their IDs. Some of them have actually applied for their IDs, but they have never really picked it up at Home Affairs. So there again, we heard, Panyaza Lesufi encouraging South Africans to, number one, if they have, applied for their IDs, they must make sure that they go to the nearest Home Affairs offices to pick up their IDs. And those who have not applied must make sure that they either get in contact with their various leaders in their communities, like ward councillors or so, or they can just go to the nearest Home Affairs offices to make sure that they get their IDs, and they can be ready when the voter registration weekend comes, and they can also make sure that they are ready to vote in the upcoming elections.
Thank you very much indeed, Patricia, our reporter Patricia Visage, who is at the ANC Lekgotla in Irene outside of Pretoria.